there's this unspoken rule in the online world that if you're not chasing a massive goal, you're not doing it right. You know, the 10k months, 6-figure launches, passive income dreams. But what if aiming smaller or slower or simpler is actually the smart, brave way to do things? That's what I'm talking about in today's episode of my Unstuck podcast. Welcome along. Hi, I'm Libby Langley. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining me. So, go big or go home. I mean, I know which I would rather do. I would rather just go home. It's funny because I think I used to really subscribe to the go big thing. You know, I went all in on my business. I worked incredibly hard, incredibly long hours, did very well, and oh, surprise, surprise, was burnt out. And really now, as I'm older, wiser, and more established, I'm of the, no, let's all just go home and sit under a blanket and have a cup of tea, shall we, kind of camp. And I think really, it really makes a difference, you know, because what I want to do today, what I want to kind of say to you today is that having a smaller goal and having a slower goal or a simpler goal doesn't mean that you're selling out to anybody. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're a disappointment. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means that you're choosing to live your life and run your business in a different way to what is arguably expected of you as the norm, right? I want to be really clear about this. This is not about selling yourself short or thinking small or not achieving your potential. None of that is true, right? This is about doing what you want to do and bugger convention, right? If I may speak so plainly. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And it feels like quite a timely episode, this, because, I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this, but I'm recording this in my office and my backdrop is horrendous. I have Superman wallpaper. I have an empty bookcase. It's just, you can see the wood chip. It's just horrendous, right? Because we've moved to a doer-upper. And so what I could have done if you're listening to this in audio, hi, please go check it out on YouTube. It's really something. If I subscribed to the go big or go home kind of shtick, then I wouldn't have recorded this, because absolutely I am, my office, my recording place, everything, it's not YouTube ready, right? As my clients will tell you over the last few weeks since we moved, it ain't ready for anything. However, so go big would mean get the fancy studio, do all that, do the everything. But actually, I'm just doing this anyway. And the reason I'm doing this anyway is because I subscribe to the go home mentality. And that's like, it's almost the, good is good enough, right? Okay. And if you're listening to this on audio, then obviously you have no idea where I am at all. I could be sitting in the park, who knows, or sitting in a cellar somewhere. It doesn't matter, right? But I'm not a polished and shiny person, and I don't preach that for any of you. I'm very much of the show up and deliver the brilliance, and all brilliance. Okay, I mean that sounded a bit ego driven there and wasn't intended to. But the brilliance is listening to this. This is why people do monthly subscriptions to me on Buy Me a Coffee, for example, because they like listening to this podcast. Oh, side note, yes, go to Buy Me a Coffee, find at Libby Langley, and do that if you want to, if you like this podcast. That's always something that you could do. You don't have to work with me to get results. You can listen to this podcast and get results. So, okay, so this big goal pressure, where does it come from? I mean, it comes from industry norms, it comes from hustle culture, it comes from Instagram gurus, and we all know how much I love them, and success stories, the kind of like Stan store screenshots that people share, and it's like, so what? You've made loads of sales, good for you. It doesn't mean it's not relative. It's of no relevance unless my business is exactly the same as yours, unless my products and services are priced exactly the same as yours, unless my Instagram following is exactly the same size as yours, unless I'm spending the same amount on ads, unless unless I have the same team around me, unless it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant, because you're comparing apples with not even pears, but like car tires. I don't know, something that is so completely different that it doesn't matter. And I think that's what people seem to forget. It's just like, oh, they're doing that, I should do that. You know nothing about them. You know nothing about them and their circumstances. Not really. You know what they tell you. So it's all a load of rubbish. It does not matter, right? An industry norms is like, according to whom? Unless you work in a big corporate and there are benchmarks, obviously, for people doing similar jobs, or I don't know, call centre targets or something, unless there is something that you could be benchmarked against, no. Big goal, what? Somebody's big goal might be to get, I don't know, say 100 grand a year, okay? Say 100 grand a year, or 10k months, 120 grand a year. That might be someone's big goal. They might be talking about turnover though. They might be talking about profit. And if they're talking about a profit, it's something like the equivalent salary of 220,000 a year. It's massive, right? But it's relative too, because their living expenses, they might have £5 grand a month mortgage, or they might have a £500 a month mortgage. And in which case it's still all relative. Like I say, unless you're comparing the same thing, one person's massive is snigger. One person's massive as another person's tiny, and vice versa, right? So a big goal is like, a big goal when you're starting out, quite frankly, is one client. But when you've been in business for 15 or more years or something, then a big goal might be 20 clients or 1,000 clients. It depends on the nature of your business. So big goal's relative. And I wonder if there's also kind of a part of you that might have absorbed the message, the messages that say, unless your goal is massive, you're not ambitious. And I just think that's a load of rubbish, because honestly, this year of 2025, given the weird political climate, all the horrendous things that are happening, wow. All the horrendous things that are happening in America that are now starting to come over here, it can feel a little bit safe and unsafe, and people are more cautious with things. Therefore, that has an impact on business. It has an impact on how many clients we get, or how we sell, or what we sell, right? So all of that makes a difference. So it's not necessarily to do with whether you're ambitious or not. Just getting by is sometimes enough. And the episode that I did with one of my extremely rare guest episodes that I did a few episodes ago with Nikki Hamilton-Jones, was one of the things that she said that she was most proud of was still being here. And I've always said that, what am I most proud of? Still having a roof over my head. I mean, all right at the minute. I also have some Superman wallpaper and some wood chip, and literally there's a hole in the floor. But anyway, that's, you're still kind of proud of what you've achieved. And that's such a personal thing. And I think that's really important, that your goals have to be personal to you. They have to matter. And in my Unstuck community, this is what we talk about all the time. We don't just pick our arbitrary numbers out of wherever, the ether. We work back on the calculations of what actually means something to you in terms of financial compensation for what you do, financial reward for what you do, but also the emotional reward, what matters to you. What's going to set your heart on fire because you've achieved this or you've done this. That's really different, and that's so hard to quantify with anybody else, because a big goal, if you have a chronic illness, or I don't know, I'm neurodivergent, right? I'm autistic ADHD, and to be absolutely honest with you, yesterday I was too overwhelmed to have a shower. And that's quite rare that happens to me. But, in this house, there's a lot of work that needs doing. And the bathroom, whilst we've done what we can for the moment, it's a wet room and I hate it. And I hate the fact that I'm standing in the drain, basically. And it's a whole sensory thing for me, right? And yesterday I was so overwhelmed with all the work that needs to be done and all the tradespeople coming around and all of this that I was just like, I do not have the bandwidth to have a shower. So in terms of big goal, yesterday was just doing something. And I put some clothes on, but I didn't have a shower. And that was okay. And so I achieved my big goal for yesterday. And is that a big goal? And Christ, no, in the grand scheme of things, absolutely, of course it's not. But it was relative to me yesterday and in the headspace and all of that. And all of these things need to be factored in, because if not, a big goal, and often the big goals, they are largely just financial, right? But if you don't factor all these other things in, this big goal that you've got can often cause you a complete paralysis instead of a motivation. So if I had a big goal of, right, I want to sign up 2 new clients a week. I want 2 new people a week to join my Unstuck community. And yet yesterday, I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to have a shower. How do you think that that's going to go? It's not. I had someone buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com, which was great because of the support this podcast gives them. And that was just really super. And kind of that's what I needed, right, yesterday. But if I'd said, right, I need to sign up 2 new clients to my Unstuck community, which is just over £2,000 if you to join that for lifetime access. But it's like, well, no, can't do it. Can't do that outreach. Can't draft an email. Can't do that. Can't have a shower. Okay, so the paralysis that can happen instead of the motivation is really, really real. And you might not have a chronic illness, or you might not have a mentally disturbed brain like me. I can say that about myself as a neurodivergent person. But you've got to know what's big for you. It's so important, that. It's absolutely so important. And also, but don't use it as an excuse, right? Because, there are things we can do when we're actually procrastinating about other things. So know thyself, I think, is the message there. But if this paralysis can be, how will I ever get there cycle? Why am I such a disappointment? It's one of those chats in ChatGPT that if you ever read it back, you'd be like, oh my God, so she needs help. But the gap between now and the goal just feels impossible. And that's when you freeze, and that's when you get really, really stuck. And you're trying to find all these ways out of it. And the way out of it is to change the goal, because it's not appropriate and it's not motivational and it's arguably not achievable, right? Doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that you're trying to scale from 0 to 1 million in the space of 3 months. Not going to happen. Yes, you'll read someone's autobiography where they did it. Yes, somebody's biography where they did it. Yes, you'll see it on Instagram in the Stan Store screenshots, but it ain't normal, right? And normal is what most people do. Yeah, it's different to average, which is the average of the highs and the lows. But this middle ground where most of us are, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. It's a nice place to be. Yeah. And I think really it's this kind of paralysis is especially common for solo business owners who juggle everything themselves, right? Everything. There are some of us who do most things in our business. There are some of us who do everything in our business. And so adding the pressure of, you've also got to go out there and smash it. Like, I remember Amy Porterfield, I've probably used this example before, but not for a long time in this podcast. I first met Amy Porterfield when I went to Social Media Marketing World in 2013. So how long was that? Like 12 years ago. Really super cool. Always thought she was really fabulous. But then there's this danger, of which I think she has kind of gone into, of losing touch with where everybody else is, right? And I remember a podcast of hers, I don't know, a few years ago now, but she was saying, on my team, I've got a team of 20. And it's like, right, okay, so you've got a team of 20 and millions, okay, to spend on ads and stuff. How is what you're saying going to relate to me? Interesting, useful and all that stuff. But actually, if you're, and obviously it's what I do, right? So I like to listen to these things to kind of just to keep in the loop with stuff. But if you're listening to these things to learn from them and somebody has a team of 20 helping them and you're trying to do what they're exactly right, I'll map it out for you in this blueprint and all that. And it's like, no, because you're forgetting that you've had 15 years of building up an email list and you've got 20 staff and you've got, do you see what I mean? And it's, you know, like I say, Amy Porterfield's great. She's a really lovely human and all of this, but, and done very well in her business. But again, it's hard to replicate what someone else has without all the nuts and bolts, without all the facets. And that's what loses, that's what you kind of lose sight of, right? So I don't want you to lose sight of it. So there's a big difference between vision and pressure as well. And vision is really kind of inspiring and magnetic and lights you up. And this is what I say to my clients in the Unstuck community is, you know, close your eyes and what is it that you want? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it taste like maybe? But what's the real vision? You know, what's the legacy that you want to leave? What really matters to you? That's the stuff of visions, right? That's the stuff that you want to have as your goal. And it isn't necessarily monetarily attached to anything, because you do because you work backwards to that. But to start with, I bet it's not going to be, I close my eyes and I vision what's really important to what really matters to me. No one's going to go 10k months, because it's what are you going to do? Roll around in a pile of £10 notes, you know? It's like, it's what these things facilitate. And that's where you can reverse engineer the maths, because you can say, oh, right, okay, my mortgage is this much, my so-and-so is this much, and that's this much, to run the business is this much, this is how much I want to take home, this is the holiday I want to go on, all of that costs that, therefore, plus tax, plus this, plus that, therefore I need to bring home this, right? You can reverse engineer all of that stuff, but that's not where you start, because where's the emotion attached to any of that? It's like, money's just money. It's what it brings to you that matters, and also what matters to you, which determines how much you need to bring in, right? But the difference between, so that's your vision, right? And then the pressure is the heaviness, the shame laden, the disappointment of not already being there, and that's what leads to avoidance, you know. So I have these moments sometimes myself. I'll admit that to you, and it's like, so I've been in business for 14 years, and it's like, so's Amy Porterfield, you know. Why is she who she is, and why am I not that? And it's stupid, because who cares? I don't want to live in Carlsbad in California, as nice as it is and all that. But, you know, and I don't want a team of 20, and that's the whole thing is, we want something different. We are different people. I am slightly older. I like, you know, I'm an introvert, I'm autistic. All of these things, right, mean that you don't want what someone else wants. So when you're putting that shame and pressure on yourself, it's like, actually, you don't want exactly what they have anyway. So this is just ridiculous. Yeah. But we are the ones who are guilty of that, for sure. So let me ask you a question. Does your current goal make you feel expanded or joyful or excited, or does it make you feel trapped? And if it makes you feel trapped, it is the wrong goal, right? Absolutely the wrong goal. So you can change your goal. That's not a problem. And I've done previous episodes on, so scroll back and find the episodes about setting goals that work for you, because I've done a few of those about goal setting. But if your goal doesn't light you up or make you feel excited, then I'm sorry, what the effing hell is the point of that goal? You're in control of this. It's your business. You get to do what the bloody hell you like, right? So do what you like. And you don't even need to tell anyone. You know, in my Unstuck community, I've got people who £1,500 is their goal, and that's what they want, because that's enough for them to do what they need to do. And yes, there's privilege behind some of this. I realise that. But, you know, it doesn't always have to be super high fly. And remember, when you set your goal, you can do it by number of clients, you can do it by money, whatever works for you. But if you're doing it by money, make sure you make the difference of profit, take home, or turnover. Because if you're setting yourself a 10k turnover goal, might cost you 9.5 grand to get to the 10k, and in which case, so you've got £500. Now, I doubt that's your goal, right? So you need to do all of the maths involved in this too. And again, something we talk about in the unstuck community. And actually, I believe I have in my book, Life in Business, which you can get on Amazon, I believe there are all the calculations for all of this. So go check that out on Amazon. It's called Life in Business, and it's really very, very useful as a book and as a kind of coaching guide for you. So go find that too. Okay, slow growth. Let's talk about slow growth. Well, I'm an enormous fan of slow growth because it's very smart and because it's sustainable. And this, again, I come back to what else is going on in your life. How are your energy levels? Do you sometimes have days where you're too overwhelmed to have a shower? And if you do, catapulting growth is not going to work for you because you'll die. And that's really what happened to me when I first started the business. Was I was hugely successful from day one, and went all in and worked. And I was on loads of stages, and I had loads of clients, and everybody knew who I was, and everybody knew my branding colour and blah, 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 blah. But I burnt myself out probably after 4 years or something because of this, because it was not a strategy that suits me. Yes, I can mask it, and yes, I can do it. But, do you know, I don't know if I can now because I'm too old and too set in my ways and too grumpy. But certainly then I could. That was 14 years ago. But, you know, it's got to be sustainable. So slow growth is really smart. It might mean fewer clients, but it will probably mean deeper relationships, and it will mean a more sustainable income. Because even if your clients come to a natural end of their life cycle, which they will probably with you, they're more likely to recommend you to people. They're more likely to give you testimonials and reviews because you've got more input, more time. And yes, it might mean that you charge slightly more, but it doesn't have to be 15 grand programs. You know, like I said before, my unstuck community, it's just over £2,000 to join it for life, right? So it's not, whilst that's an investment, it's not £1 million. So you don't have to go crazy. You just need to know how your numbers work, okay? And the slower growth, so 2 clients for me a month, a week would be way too much. Couldn't sustain them, couldn't keep up the level of marketing required in order to generate that. It would dilute the value of the community because we have probably 5 people on a call at the moment. So everybody gets loads of time. Those 5, you know, they switch and change about. But absolutely going all in and doing growth just wouldn't work, right? And I know that. And that might be the same for you because this sustainability is far more important, and bigger isn't always better. It's often more stressful, right? So you can reframe slow as intentional. And I love that. Conscious. You know, conscious is a word that I use a lot. Making conscious decisions about how you want your business to be. And yeah, like I say, you know, I've been there, done that, right? And now I am very much of the slow, steady, sustainable kind of pace of things, because I need my business to work for me as well as working for my clients and delivering what my clients need. I need it to work for me financially, and I need it to work for me in terms of energy and what I deliver. And I love my clients, and I love the fact that I can be there for them. Not in I'm a people pleaser way, but in the fact that the community and me and my working, oh God, not saying environment, honestly, this place is just, it's really stressful being in this room at the minute. But, you know, the working environment, as in how I've structured everything, is exactly how I want and need it to be in order to be able to satisfy myself, to be able to sustain my energy through it, and to be able to give my clients everything that I've promised them and everything that they need. And that's really, really important. I think that's a mark of integrity with a business owner. So I want you to think about your own business in those terms as well. You know, does this work for me? Does this work for them? Does this sustain me financially? If I do a massive level of growth, can I afford it? Can I afford to invest in my business that much? Do I have the cash flow to do that? Or am I happy to just do this and a bit more? Because often that's kind of where we're at, right? That's where we're at. So I don't want to say to you that you're scared, because I don't want to put any kind of words in your mouth. But if you are scared, that's smaller simpler, sustainable means that you're giving up. Please don't think that, right? Okay. Please don't think that you're giving up, because you're not giving up at all. In fact, you're regaining control, right? Your pace is your pace. You get to dictate that. You get to decide that. And you might be scared of doing that or of saying that out loud. And, you know, I have been over the years, certainly. But now I'm just like, you know what? I don't care what you think. I can go to Sainsbury's later and it's all fine. My business won't collapse. You know, I can have the time out, and I can focus like that. And that's really, really important to me. So bravery sometimes looks like saying, no thanks, when everyone else is chasing stuff. And it is particularly brave given the kind of economic climate and the political shitstorm that's going on around us in the US, and unfortunately this country too. So it's, you know, you can do that, but you still have to have the courage in your conviction. You have to be true to your vision. That's why this vision is so important, right? So start with what you want your days to look like. Think about what the revenue is that actually gives you the breathing room and the life that, you know, this is all right. And what's the minimum viable structure of your business that makes it all feel good? Those are the important things. And those are the things that I want you to think about and to take away from today's episode. Okay, so as ever, let me know on social media. I'm at Libby Langley across all social media channels. Just find me, message me, send me an email, or indeed buy me a coffee. Such a cool thing. Buy me a coffee. I'll maybe do an episode about that in the future. But for now, just buy me a coffee. Libby Langley, find it. All right. Today's been an absolute pleasure and a joy. And I want you to remember that go big or go home. It's all right to go home. Going big ain't all that. Size does not matter. All right. I will see you on the next episode of Unstuck. Lots of love. Bye.